Israel is trying to ethnically cleanse the north of Gaza. It's been all over. Remember, the north was sort of the safe point in a lot of moments throughout this war, genocide. But 400,000 people are still there. And yet there have been orders to evacuate. The last few days have been, I would say, unconscionably cruel, David. Just like, again, this is the most evil Mad Libs of all of the things. I mean, things that we can't even process because our minds wouldn't go there, like bombing a makeshift clinic outside of the Al-Aqsa hospital, leading to the death by fire of 4 people, including a 19-year-old boy named Shaban al-Dalu, who was still attached to an IV as he burned alive. His mother also died along with him, but his family could not rescue him in time. Here's just a little bit of an Al Jazeera report from that attack.
4 people have been confirmed killed in the attacks, and they were removed from the 10 sites here that were burned down to ashes, completely incinerated to the emergency department of the hospital, and later to the morgue of the hospital. But we're looking at more than 40 who are critically injured and are experiencing severe burns. Nothing is left here for people. No one is safe, not even the little bird that was inside this cage for the children who were enjoying their spare time with it.
So there's an image of a burned out, like, bird cage, and it's just like it's so heartbreaking and emblematic. And you see the people who were digging around in the rubble and the remains of this attack, and they're all kids. And like, I don't know about you, David, but like, obviously there's a reason more children have died in this war, this genocide, excuse me, because the Gazan population is so young. But it's crazy to be reminded of that just kind of by seeing some general footage, and everyone who's around witnessing this are all like under like 16. And then there were kids who were like, oh, here's a small way I can reclaim my childhood by playing with a little bird in a cage and keeping it and feeding it. And of course, that also died. It's pretty unconscionable. It's wild. This is in addition to bombing of the Jabalia refugee camp again. People were waiting on a food line. They got killed in the food line. This is too serious, but I did want to make, this is not funny, but I think you need to see how Politico and how mainstream news covers this, because here's how Politico is framing the evacuation orders / ethnic cleansing / genocide of the people in the north of Gaza. Netanyahu mulls plan to empty northern Gaza of civilians. Like, what is that? Like, what? And I'm telling you, the whole article, it says nothing about that being a war crime. Like, what is Gaza? Like, is it just like a piggy bank? You're going to turn it up and down and like just shake it? Like, I'm going to empty it of civilians. What does that even mean? That means murder. That means extermination.
Yeah. I mean, so much violence has happened that I kind of I lose track of kind of like the geography of it all. First off, it's a very small area, right? But I thought like they started with the north and then made their way down, because I remember early on it's like, hey, get across this line and you'll be safe.
South.
And then they just kept going south, and then I guess now that they've reached Egypt, they have to like start all over again because people are fleeing. But yeah, it's very tough. I saw video footage of, I think, the hospital on fire. And I'm not all that active on social media, but it was one of the things I did share just because it was very just troubling. And then a friend comedian of mine, Marcus Howard, he just, because it's Fleet Week right now in the Bay Area.
That's right.
So he made the kind of juxtaposition that, you know, the blue angels are soaring across the sky, kind of, and we're celebrating that, while at the same time, it's like different kind of military planes are soaring over Gaza, dropping bombs on tents. Tents
Yep.
of all things is like seems. I mean, all of it was already unnecessary, but it's you know, you're. I think it's been happening for over a year. I don't
Mhm.
know, like maybe if we're following different people, but you're kind of seeing a fatigue of it, where you're not seeing as many shares of these
Yes.
stores. Maybe censorship. I don't know.
No,
You
I
would
think
think,
censorship. Yeah. I
like,
think it's both. I think that's a really important.
yeah.
That's really real. Is that
Mhm.
people are. I think there is a fatigue, and especially when the other day hundreds of protesters got arrested outside of the New York Stock Exchange with Jewish Voice for Peace, and it was an amazing action, and that's what it's going to take is that action, but like times thousands, right? And we have been, and people have been putting themselves out there, but nothing changes, especially on the U.S. side. There may be a little bit of movement, however, there's some breaking news, but, you know, this particular attack on the makeshift hospital outside of Al-Aqsa, plus Jabalia, plus, everything we are hearing and seeing and just how extreme the attacks on the North been. Plus, never mind, sorry, 21 people just yesterday killed in Lebanon when an apartment building was bombed by Israel. But here's Vice President Harris tweeting yesterday, the UN reports no food has entered northern Gaza in 2 weeks. Israel must urgently do more to facilitate the flow of aid to those in need. Civilians must be protected and must have access to food, water, and medicine. International humanitarian law must be respected. Gee, what time is it? Yeah, way too fucking late for that. That's what that is. The completely too late for that. I mean, back to the Politico article. Netanyahu is examining a plan to seal off humanitarian aid to northern Gaza in an attempt to starve out Hamas militants, of course. A plan that, if implemented, could trap without food or water hundreds of thousands of Palestinians unwilling or unable to leave their homes. In other words, Politico, say it with me, a fucking war crime. But you saw that from Kamala Harris. You also saw this from AOC, talking about the horrors unfolding are a result of a completely unrestrained Netanyahu government, fully armed by the Biden administration, while food aid is blocked. Patients are bombed in hospitals. This is a genocide of Palestinians. The U.S. must stop enabling it. Arms embargo now. Pretty good. Pretty good. Maybe flies in the face of the remarks she made at the DNC about Kamala Harris working night and day to get a ceasefire, because final little news item, Haaretz are reporting that basically IDF and the government are completely pushing a hostage deal aside. Commanders in Gaza say the recent decision to operate in the northern part of the Strip was taken without proper deliberations and apparently aimed at pressuring civilians in the area to relocate. So instead of focusing on, getting the hostages home, they're just like, nah, we're gonna just ethnically cleanse. Everyone needs to go south, away, north to Lebanon, that's also being bombed. But perhaps this is like a result of pressure. This just dropped right now. The U.S. is warning Israel to boost humanitarian aid into Gaza or risk losing weapons funding. Again, way too late, but there's some progress here. There was a letter they issued to Israel. They must increase the amount of humanitarian aid allowed into Gaza within the next 30 days, or could risk losing access to U.S. weapons funding. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin warned their Israeli counterparts in a letter dated Sunday that the changes must occur. Again, that was before that heinous bombing of, again, the makeshift tents. But like, this is 30 days, Dave. Like, 30 days. Do you think there will be people left in northern Gaza in 30 days? We've seen what they've been able to do. We're like 55 civilians in 24 hours. 30 days is, way too much time to risk maybe losing access. But I don't know. What do you think of this?
Uh, I'm reminded of this article I read early on, where I think somebody shared this quote of Bill Clinton's opinion on Netanyahu. and the long gist of it is he asked rhetorically, like, who's the superpower here? And it's like, it's US. Like, if you wanted Palestinians to have aid, they would have aid by now, because what's Israel gonna do if we just dropped aid there? Honestly. So it's this idea that they're kind of like, obviously they've enabled it, but I don't know if how much the current election plays into everything, right? Because
Yeah.
maybe Netanyahu is just kind of stalling until they figure out who he gets to work with. And if it's Trump, then I think it gets worse.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's another aspect of it that a lot of people forget, because neither option is good. It's like but you do have to choose between a bad option and a unacceptable option. Like, that's kind of what
I think that yes.
I'm dealing with, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's like, would you like Diet Cherry Coke, which just sounds awful to me, or like 12 ounces of shit, And I'm like, well, I'm gonna do the Diet Cherry Coke.
right.
I would like that option because the other option is unacceptable.
Yeah. So, because I don't know, maybe it's just the alarmist in me, but I think if Trump wins, then you're like, Gaza is gonna be they're just gonna rename it Israel. Like, it's not gonna exist within
Well, yes.
his presidency. Whereas with Harris, at least you have some form of, pageantry or whatever, window dressing, that, hey, y'all have your own area, and eventually there's gonna be an end to it. Because I do think, like right now, I think a lot of politicians, they're kind of on hold, until the election's over, because like they don't know where their power is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the meantime, I mean, like, obviously she's losing Muslim and Arab American voters in all these key swing states. And I don't know if a tweet is enough to earn them back, but I agree with you that that pageantry is cynical and obnoxious, but also a crack in the door to wedge our foot through and to really make shit like this stop. I cannot tell you the rage that it fills me with when I see things like this. Like, Israel is evil. Evil, 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 period. And every liberal Zionist that ever defended them to me, I hope you are so fucking miserable. God, I don't even want you. I don't hope you see the light. I hope you're miserable. Like, that is, I'm like real PMSing right now, but I am so fucking, I just wish nothing but pain, nothing but pain, nothing but sadness, nothing but die alone energy. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do it.